Welcome to Next Economy Now. The goal of this podcast series is to highlight the leaders who are taking a regenerative, bioregional, equitable, democratic, racially just, and whole systems approach to creating the new economy.
Hello, Erin Axelrod here, a partner at Lift Economy. So pleased to be joined today by Vivek George, who's originally from a small town in New Jersey, and life has taken Vivek around the world and back to where he currently resides in Brooklyn. He's an entrepreneur and built his first startup in 2004 during his final year at college, which was a healthy snack and beverage vending machine business, which he later sold. Vivek is currently one of the 3 co-founders of a multi-stakeholder cooperative called Yuti Co-op. Yuti is an online marketplace for sustainable home essentials and other goods that's in development. And it's designed by him and his team. The design will share its ownership and profits with not only its workers, but customers, vendors, and even nature, with a capital N. Outside of his responsibilities at UT, he's currently a consultant for Shanti Bhavan, a world-class residential school in India for some of India's most economically disadvantaged children. Vivek is an avid Vipassana meditator, community activist, student of life, and a techno music lover. Vivek, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Erin, for having me. It's a true honor.
So, can you tell us a little bit about UT and why you started it, where the idea came from?
Yeah, I'm an avid lover of nature and of people. Those things are true to my heart. I think about them often. And during the midst of COVID, at some point, I think Jeff Bezos' worth was going through the roof. And I think he was worth like $180 billion at that point in time. And I thought to myself, I was like, that's a lot of money. I was like, imagine if all that money went, instead of just to one person, went directly to nonprofits? How would the world look different? I imagine that, there'd probably still be lots of issues, but a lot of things would be, addressed and probably be better off. And they sort of started thinking, like, how could you, build a company that could quickly shift wealth directly into the hands of people that really needed organizations or causes that really needed it. And so I started this long investigation of different business models. I'm an entrepreneur, as you mentioned, for a long time. I have a degree in economics and MBA, but during all that period, I never learned about co-ops. And so as I was doing this research, I explored a couple different options. I even explored the option of like doing something similar to the brand Newman's Own, Paul Newman's brand, where they donate all their profits to charities. But as I was researching, and I discovered worker cooperatives first, and later multi-stakeholder cooperatives, and I just fell in love with the model and the ecosystem. It addressed so many issues in a single business, a model or organizational type, and it got me so excited. And being a multi-stakeholder cooperative really got me even more excited because I felt like you would address a lot of issues that we're facing in the world at the same time. So UT, as you mentioned, is a business a marketplace trying to sell sustainably produced products. So we're trying to, by being a business, we're trying to make it easier for normal, everyday people to shop sustainably, buy the same things that they're used to, but shop sustainably. And at the same time, by being a multi-stakeholder cooperative, we're also addressing both being a more democratic world, or trying to bring a more democratic world to society. And also we're trying to address income inequality. And to me, those are like the 3 big issues that we're currently facing in society: environmental issues, democracy, and income inequality. And so when those pieces came together and I could see this vision in my own mind and sort of penciling it out, I got so excited and, been just doing a ton of research on putting that together. I have 2 amazing friends as co-founders that are super brilliant and been helping us put the pieces together. It's a big puzzle, as you can imagine, getting all these different stakeholders together and trying to organize them and trying to work towards this common vision where not just, one founder or a couple founders or a couple investors really succeed, but everyone's success is UT's success.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing that work. It often comes up when we, in our MBA or in our other communications, when we talk about the marketplace for goods and services, it often comes up, well, what other alternative is there apart from Amazon? And so I appreciate your perseverance in this because we don't have a lot of great options right now. Could you talk a little bit about some of the strategies that you've thought of in terms of kind of disrupting that landscape? And yeah, what's your vision for UT Co-op into the future?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so I think I spent a lot of time strategizing, like, how can we differentiate ourselves? How can we, stand against Amazon in the long run practically, on a really practical level? On an emotional level, I get it, but on a real practical level, business, 101, how can we face organizations like Amazon or Walmart that really have no restraints, that they can basically do anything without any repercussion? And the key to me is branding and telling that story and doing the right thing. And an example organization that really stands out to me and that has been an inspiration, I also believe they were guests with you guys, is Organic Valley. Organic Valley, is a cooperative that got started in the 80s, during the big agriculture movement. And, fast forward about 40 years now, Organic Valley is the dairy company, is the dairy cooperative, is not only still around, they're thriving in an industry that's going down. And from my analysis, what I could tell is that they created an amazing product and they didn't focus on being the cheapest. They focused on providing real value that wasn't in the marketplace. And that's value is continued to help them grow and sustain themselves. And so for us, that's what we're trying to do. We're saying, hey, we're not going to be the everything store. We're not perhaps going to be able to deliver as fast as Amazon. We may not be able to be as cheap as Amazon or Walmart. But what we're going to do is we're going to provide some certain values that you can't get at Amazon or any other place, or most places at least. And that's, for us, those things are like, the sustainability component, making sure that the products that we have on the platform are really, truly as about as sustainable, based on various metrics as they can be. And that's another nice benefit of being a multi-stakeholder cooperative. We're beyond transparent. We go beyond transparent. We are built by community. And to me, that's even more powerful than quote unquote being transparent, because as we all know, not every customer, not every individual can go through these transparency reports that companies produce. But because we're owned by those different stakeholder groups, and those other stakeholder groups are part of our decision-making process and part of these conversations on when we make compromises and when we choose to do certain things, they are in the know of what we're trying to do. And there's no like greenwashing or no hiding it. So for us, a lot of it is just doing stuff that unfortunately other companies can't do. And we believe that in the long run will give customers the belief and knowing that when they buy from UT, they're buying a product that they can feel good about and they can be certain will serve them. And on top of it, our success is everyone's success, that are related to our business. So, when we win, we share those profits with our customers, with our makers, and even with nature. And the way we're designing the nature component is that we're trying to work with social, environmental nonprofits in our local communities as we build out the model. So, for example, we're really thinking about focusing on New York City or New York State as our launching point. That's where we are based out of. And we'd like to see the social environmental nonprofits that we recruit initially to be located in this area. So that if you're a customer, you're shopping, you buy some stuff, you share some of those profits, later that year when we return those profits. And on top of it, some of those profits also go to environmental and social nonprofits or activists in your community. So you can feel good that not only you're making a smart decision for your environment, but you're also helping to be part of the solution through the way we're sharing our profits.
That's so awesome. Can you talk a little bit about your kind of rollout strategy? My understanding is there's not a platform right now that people can hop on and shop with, but that you're actually kind of building stakeholder involvement from the get-go. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we're in the process of figuring out all the different components of it, our go-to-market strategy, and we're connecting with vendors and customers and even environmental and social nonprofits in our area as we speak. And we're at the process right now. We're actually even working with New York Law School's law clinic and some of their students there on building out the multi-stakeholder model so that we actually, from the really get-go, we have all these components in place so that stakeholders can come in, become members, and have a voice on our board by having a representative and vote on these terms. And so for us right now, we're really just, figuring out all the different pieces, how this is all going to work, how we're going to share the profits, how decision-making is working. And we're talking to these different verticals and trying to figure out who would like to join the board, who would become members early on, understanding the pain points that they have. We've done this pretty large survey already. I think we have already 70 responses from customers on the things that they need. We've done a similar survey with vendors and the things that they're looking for. And now we're looking at for different, like I said, social, environmental nonprofits and activists and so forth that we can connect with that can play the role of nature and can be the last check on our sustainability standards. So we put out an open source document where we put together our sustainability standards, what our goals are, and the document is there for people to review, to make sure our standards are clear and that provide real value. And we hope that people will leave more comments and suggestions and also copy it for their own companies and make it better than what we've already done. But also is an opportunity for these environmental nonprofits and these activists and other groups to get involved and suggest, hey, why don't you think about this? Have you considered that? And so that's kind of the different ways we're engaging these different groups. It's a sort of a slow process because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of different outreach and efforts. So we're trying to do these things as thoughtfully as we can. But yeah, that's a bit of our processes thus far in trying to get these different groups involved. And we'll continue to fine-tune these things as we get closer to launch and beyond. Even if it's not perfect at launch, we're fine with it. We know that this will evolve and get better over time.
Amazing. Well, one of our core principles in the Next Economy MBA is around transparency. So it's actually really exciting for me to see that, listeners can follow along in this journey. And I know you've been writing some Medium posts and kind of documenting this journey of creating this ecosystem. I'm curious if you could speak a little bit to the name. Why Yuti? Is there a significance to that word?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so Yuti means unity or union or connection. And that's for us is absolutely at the core of what we're trying to create. We're bringing all these communities together, all these groups together. And we believe by coming together, we can create a better world, a better society. And I think, thus far where humanity has gone is become very individualistic. And we're trying to go back to some of our roots of connectedness and working together. That's how humans have become the dominant species on this planet is originally by working together. And so we're trying to usher in with all these other amazing cooperatives and all these other amazing companies and organizations that come on their podcast to try to figure out a way to work better together. We hope that UT is another example along with all the amazing other individuals and organizations that are on the Next Economy now.
Thank you. And yeah, so excited to see what comes of this collaboration, this union of like-minded hearts and minds. Yeah, curious, what are some challenges that are coming up for you? What are some areas where you might feel like you could use support or need help from our extended community?
Yeah, every day is a challenge in terms of just trying to figure out how to go into the market, how to differentiate ourselves, how to launch, right? How to launch with a tight budget and how to bring these different stakeholders into play, engage them. People have lots of other distractions, lots of other things that are important to them. So for right now, the big challenge for us is just understanding how do we open up this platform and not just have, be crickets when we launch, right? Like, how do we open it up and get people really excited about it? And we're seeing some early signs about that. When we did like a little promo talk, about 2 years when we sort of kicked things off initially, and we totally didn't know what we were doing. We just kind of like followed some PDF manual on how to start a co-op that we found online, but we posted it on a bunch of places. We even posted it on Y Combinator's Hacker News site, and it was the top link for that day for a few hours. And we had this sold out event. So like a bunch of people literally bought tickets to support. We've done, small events and with lots of attendance. We have this email list of people who can subscribe to our email list, and people are trickling in every day. So we get these signs that people are excited, but we're just trying to figure out how to enter the market that really differentiates us, from others in the space, from the Amazons and others, and gets people's attention, because yes, we realize that people are distracted. So that's some of the, the challenges, or some of the practical challenges we're facing today. We're, in the process of raising capital in a really grassroots way. We have a GoFundMe going on right now. And that's important to us because it's really, it would be pretty easy. I have a tech background. I could probably go to a bunch of VCs or angel investors and try to raise capital that way. But for us, it's super important to try to build a community behind what we're doing, part of that unity effort, because we see where the world has gone when money is the vote, when money represents a vote and a voice. And we see that has some benefits, but we think long-term, it's really short-sighted. And it can be very destructive to communities, to long-term democracy. And so for us, our focus is on doing grassroots fundraising to bring UT to life. And if that means it takes a little bit longer for UT to hit its big, huge vision, then that's what the world thinks that needs to be. And maybe that's okay, because it'll help us refine our plans and our goals. And so we don't see things as challenges. We see them as opportunities to grow, to refine, to improve. But yeah, that's an area is fundraising. Co-ops always say that is a challenge. I see it as more as an opportunity. And we had this GoFundMe going on to try to raise capital for that. Other ways people can, let us know they're excited is, join the email list. That really shows that there's interest. That shows, vendors and makers who want to be are thinking about being on the platform. And we can tell them, hey, look, we got this big email list. People are clearly excited about the platform. We know you're busy on, Etsy or some other platform or Amazon, but look, there's a ton of people who are already joined their email list or contributed to our fundraising. So you should join this because you're going to, there's people waiting for your products. What else? So our sustainability standards would love more feedback. We had this great intern from Dartmouth this summer, an environmental engineer, Ryan, who joined us, and he helped us with our sustainability standards. But we're always looking for opportunities to improve that document, to think about things more holistically, and make sure that we are being considerate, at least at this phase of where we are in our development. So those are some of the areas that we'd love some help. Tech, we're going to build out the platform soon. So just thinking about, different tech solutions and opportunities to build the marketplace really leanly to get off the ground and then go from there. So those are some of the areas I would say. Thanks, Erin, for asking.
I really appreciate your cautionary words about the wrong kind of capital, taking on the wrong kind of capital. And you've probably heard us talk about this elsewhere on the podcast. So yeah, it's really good to hear that you're being discerning, just mainly because we've seen so many heartbreaking accounts around the opposite being true, even. So yeah, so appreciating that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that was part of the reason for the co-op, and I wrote a whole blog piece about this particular subject and, how unfortunately, big investors, they have a goal. They need a return on investment. That's what their job is. But unfortunately, that's caused a lot of the problems that at least I see in the world today. And so we're trying to do something different. We know that a lot of people would say we're crazy or, think that's foolish. But like I said, we rather be small and grow slowly than to take the wrong type of money, like you said, and then compromise our values and our goal. What's the point? I feel really blessed and fortunate to have the life that I have. I have great parents that really did a lot for me. I take that responsibility really seriously, as do my co-founders. I have amazing, amazing co-founders. We all take these responsibilities seriously. And so we want to do something right from our position of privilege. And so for us, it's definitely not perhaps the easiest route, but we think in the long term, it'll pay off not only for UT, but for the broader community.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe in the long term, it will be easier than heartbreak and headache from taking on the wrong investors.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just for some of our listeners might be listening and wondering, well, what's so wrong about shopping with Amazon? Or should I be, I wonder if you have any thoughts or information to share with listeners around some of the, you mentioned the wealth kind of inequality around Bezos accumulating a lot of wealth. Are there other things you'd like to speak to around Amazon and some of the challenges, or maybe not even Amazon, but just the sector as a whole of consumable goods, and what are some of the challenges in that sector that you would like to speak to that UT's trying to address?
Yeah, totally. And by the way, I try not to, I'm not trying to talk badly about any organizations or any individuals, but I just sharing my perspective and how I see things, and so for the challenges I think we're seeing with Amazon and other large corporations is it really creates a huge shift in wealth from lots of individuals to, single individual or a large corporation, generally speaking, broadly speaking, right? So if you're a shopper in New York and Brooklyn, where I am, you're buying something, that money moves from your wallet literally to, basically to Seattle and primarily to, a couple wealthy individuals at the top of Amazon. And when you multiply that across the nation, across the globe, that's how this funneling of wealth occurs. And that creates a lot of insecurity in local communities across our country and across the world. And that's why you see this sort of crumbling of businesses, all across the world. And you see this huge shift in income inequality. In the 60s and 70s, income inequality was, not the level that it is today. Is far more balanced. But in the last 40 years or so, there's been, because of lots of different policy changes, there's been a huge shift of wealth. And these large corporations are taking in more and more the money and centralizing that wealth and keeping communities really insecure in terms of just being able to pay their rents and pay for food. And it's really demolishing local businesses. So people are having a hard time finding jobs in their own local communities. And that's because of these tech platforms. Generally, there's lots of reasons for it, but one of the reasons that Amazon plays into that is there are these platforms that can sell to anybody, anywhere in the world. And they centralize most of the money because they're the business that's, dictating the rules of how people sell on their platform or how they sell on their platform. And UT is quite a different approach, right? So first off, we're owned by our workers. They're one of the main classes of ownership on our platform is the workers. So, our success doesn't mean that I or my co-founders get rich. We share that wealth with all of our other colleagues. And worker cooperatives, historically speaking, have a much different pay differential than traditional businesses like an Amazon or a Walmart or any of these companies. So for example, at a worker cooperative, the pay differential between the top employee and the bottom employee can range somewhere between 8x or 9x to 1. At an average company in the USA, that can range, the difference between the top and bottom employee is 300 to 400x, orders of magnitude different. And that's played into also income inequality issues that we're facing here in the US and across the globe. So that's one clear way that UT and other co-ops address this issue. Additionally, we are going to be a marketplace. So, it's not about us selling foreign products or buying products and selling. We have different sellers that have their own autonomous business they sell on. And, the math that we've been doing is we have much more reasonable terms in terms of how much we're charging on our platform, or planning to charge on our platform than a lot of our competitors. Because we're not owned by external investors, we don't have to return money to people that are uninvolved in the business. We just have to focus on making sure that we pay our workers well, and take care of our workers. And then we put some money aside in the company so that, if we have some hard times or we need to grow a little bit the next year, we want to build out some features, we do that. And we don't have this onerous, external investors that are requiring constantly quarter after quarter, year after year, return on investment, what also plays into income inequality. So there's a lot of different problems that you see from traditional businesses that create this wealth gap issues that we're seeing, and that co-ops are really nicely designed to address. Hopefully that was clear, and maybe a little bit all over the place, but hopefully that addresses some of the issues.
No, it was so helpful, especially for listeners that are kind of wondering, well, what can I do right now? And you talking about just the extraction of wealth from these platforms made me think that, anybody right now can go and look at what they're currently purchasing and just see, is there a local option that I can go to keep more of that money in my community? We think about even banking, if folks are with a banking that is owned by a corporation outside of their community, they can move their money to credit unions right now, today, and have a huge impact. So yeah, thanks for kind of positioning that framing.
Yeah, just if I could just, follow you up, you're totally right. Like, there's so many, small businesses that you can support. Co-ops are a great opportunity to support. I think we've become really addicted to the convenience that Amazon provides. But unfortunately, in the long term, that really harms the longevity of our local neighborhoods. And that's why, UT's, if we feel like it's a nice balance, because we hope to provide much of the similar convenience that you get from an Amazon or other platforms. But because we are not only our marketplace, like literally designed as a marketplace, so, stores, independent businesses can have stores on our platform. But because we share the profits also with these vendors, our success is their success too. I jokingly tell people, like the person or the people that really are losing out the most are the original founders, who are traditionally at a business would get this like lion's share ownership, and they, when the company succeeds, they have this huge payoff. And so for us, that's really the only downside. Everyone else really wins in this scenario, except for maybe, I guess, lastly, VC investors who would typically invest in this type of business.
Awesome. So helpful. Well, as we wrap up, I'm just curious if there's any final thoughts you would like to leave our listeners with regards to the work you're doing or advice you have on this journey, things you're learning, paying attention to.
Yeah, I'd say keep listening to this show, to be honest. This show is amazing. You guys have such awesome guests. I'm constantly learning from folks on this show. I think I even reach out to, after listening to an episode, Jesse from Hutsy TV, who's been awesome. I think if folks are on this journey of trying to create this next economy, trying to figure out how to build a better business, keep listening to this show or listening to similar shows and be inspired. And to experiment, to try. Like I mentioned, yes, I had a lot of experience building businesses of my own, but I never tried to create a co-op or never even knew much about a co-op until I learned about it, a little over 2 years ago. And I just started doing research, listening to shows like this, listening to YouTube channels, reading books, whatever. And then, I just gave it a shot, and it was a stumbling process. We made mistakes, but that's okay. That's part of the process. So I encourage people to take inspiration from the entrepreneurs, from this show and others, to give it a shot, to reach out to folks like myself. I'd be more than happy to connect with folks. I'm always doing that. That's how I got started. I connected with a great friend now who's become a great friend in Berlin, Felix Weth. He started something similar called Fairmondo way back in the day. And he's been a great mentor for me ever since. And I've connected with so many other folks in the co-op world who've been so kind and so gracious with their time. And so I encourage people to just keep doing that, just to try to experiment, to don't be fearful, but try to be thoughtful. Try to really think it beyond yourself. How can I create a better world and not only be focused on me, but focus on all the different stakeholders that are related? Because if we're going to create that more happy, more connected, more healthy, more thriving economy, I think we need to think about that. And even today, I was listening to a TED Talk about income inequality and how the countries where you see the greatest income gaps have some of the worst indicators in terms of like health and a thriving society. So if you want to live in a world that's people are happy and healthy, it's only in your best interest to try to create a business where everybody wins. That's how I see it, at least.
Thanks, Vivek. And your comment around being thoughtful made me think of something we encourage our MBA students to do, especially when they're kind of in the initial feasibility ideation stage, is to think of 1 to 3 reference points. So for any idea that you're creating, think of and try and seek out from those conversations with other fellow entrepreneurs 1 to 3 reference points of folks that are doing what you're doing. And how are you going to be similar? How are you going to differentiate? Because so often we see people coming up with solutions that may have already been tried or may already exist in some form or iteration. And we have a lot to learn from actually connecting with those folks that have, maybe tried and failed and learned some things along the way. So I love that you brought up Fairmondo and that you've been connecting with others in the space who have been doing similar work.
That's a great point, Erin. Yeah, totally. And that was kind of my journey too. Like, as I mentioned earlier, is that like, as I was working towards cooperatives, I did this really in-depth analysis on Newman's Own. I even wrote a blog piece on them because I was curious about that model and I was interested. And then I, did some more research on Organic Valley, which I did also a blog piece on. So I kind of already saw this model working. And then when I saw, heard about Fairmondo and a couple other groups like Mondragon and so forth, the pieces came together. I was like, this could work. If those companies can do it, if those individuals can do it, why can't I? So I think that tip is amazing. It's a really valuable one for sure.
Well, Vivek, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And we will link in the show notes to places folks can go to learn more, follow your work, subscribe to your newsletter. But just thank you so much.
Thank you, Erin, for having me. Really a pleasure.
Next Economy Now is a production of Lift Economy. To listen to all of our episodes, go to lifteconomy.com/podcast. That's LIFT economy.com/podcast. You can also sign up for our monthly newsletter at lifteconomy.com/newsletter. Please also rate and review our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Before you go, we wanted to let you know that our spring cohort of the Next Economy MBA begins on March 26th. If you're an entrepreneur seeking to create a business that works for all life, a member of a team looking to transition your organization into one that is more regenerative and democratic, or someone who's considering a career or livelihood transition and embodiment with your values, we designed this course for you. Over this 9-month learning journey, you'll have the chance to learn practical skills around business and life design based on our work with over 250 social enterprises. In addition to live sessions, you can deepen your experience and practice with special sessions, affinity groups, and connections with over 500 alumni who have participated in the course. Interested in learning more? Visit lifteconomy.com/MBA to view our course curriculum and sign up for a free intro with one of our facilitators. If you're ready to sign up, you can use the code PODCASTMBA to save 10% on tuition. We hope you'll join us.